Okay, so continuing on from yesterday's video, what we're going to do next is we're going to go to GitHub, to the Phoenix Fire Development Organization, to the Excite repo. We're going to download it into a different location on our local, and I'm going to show you how you can take that repository and essentially disconnect it, rename things, and make a new Rails app from the skeleton. So let's get into it. I'm in a new temporary directory on my local. I've got the URL copied to my clipboard, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it down into a separate repository. So now that I've pulled it down, I'm going to go ahead and make a new Sublime project that points to this new repository. A couple of things that we need to do first, obviously, is to rename things that start with Excite, and we need to respect the case sensitivities. I'm going to go ahead and start renaming references to Excite, all lowercase, making sure that I have case sensitivity here on. Okay, so having done that, I've now pulled up a diff of all the things I've had to change with the Excite name, including case sensitivity. So I had to change the instructions in the README, some of the application helper, the layouts. Basically, you can see it here, and you can see it when I pull down the repo. I'm just making sure that nothing will conflict with Excite itself on my local machine. So there's a couple more things that we need to do, which include opening up secrets.yaml, and we need to change out our secret key base so that we have different session tokens. The normal way to do this would be using the secret task under rake. So you can say bin/rake secret, which will generate you one. Now the application is not currently installed, so I'm going to go ahead and use another utility. So this utility lets me generate the secrets I need for things like cookie keys and all that. I'm going to go ahead and replace the ones here. And then we also need to go into devise.rb. I've also gone ahead and updated the mailer name and the port for the database to run on a separate one, just in case I happen to be running both of them in parallel. I can still connect to the databases. We've gone ahead and renamed references inside the source code from Excite to Jack Dummy, and I'll explain what that means later. But now we actually have to change the folder structure itself. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take Excite and we're going to rename it to Jack Dummy. What we need to say now is, are there any more folders or files inside the application structure itself that have Excite in the name? And we can double check that there aren't. Because I cloned this from the master repository on the organization, we're also missing the .secrets.env file. There is a .secrets.env.example, which we can copy here, create a new file, .secrets.env, save that, paste that in here, and then substitute in our values here for the environment variables, which will be set during build time and run time of the Docker container. Okay, now with our environment secrets generated, we should be able to build the Docker image. So we're going to go into our console. Now that we're inside the Docker folder, I'm going to go ahead and use my shortcut alias, DC, which means Docker Compose, and say build, and the new name, which is Jack Example. This should build us a new container, just like we did yesterday, except it will be, yep, see, there we go. Nothing has changed from the Excite container, so it can basically just reference off of that. So we should be able to say Docker Compose up. So you can see here that the database is coming up, and we're just waiting on Rails itself to turn on. I can check the status of the running Docker containers by typing docker ps-a, which will list all the containers that are currently running or have exited and crashed. Okay, so with a few more seconds of patiently waiting, it did come online and it created the database and did the migration. So I just had to wait a few more seconds. So now that we can see that it's running on localhost 3000, we should be able to flip back over to our browser. And if we look at our console, we can see that the request has come in, it's unauthorized. It's probably going to redirect us to sign in here and see if we get in. And you can tell up here in this corner, we see Jack Example. We can see Jack Example down here, 2020. Our users are loading, right? And there we go. So with that, we have renamed everything. Now we have to go ahead and disconnect it from the root repository. So we're going to say Docker Compose down, which will turn off the Docker containers. And then once that happens, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and go over to GitHub, and we're going to create a new repository. So the application has gone offline, and we're going to say rm-rf.get get status, which there should be none because we just nuked it, git init, git add dot, git commit, initial commit. So I'm going to make a private repository called Jack Dummy. And I'll put this on the organization later after I've verified everything. Add the remote and then push it up. And then we say get remote show origin. And there we have it. You're probably asking, why did you name it Jack Dummy? Well, in the next part of this series, I'm going to open source yet another gem, which is called Jack. Jack is a dynamic database-backed permissions engine with a custom DSL for doing role-based authorization. Jack is a mountable Rails engine which has a bundled dummy application inside of it. I want to test what it would be like including this new Rails gem engine in an actual Rails application that exists outside of the dummy application that becomes bundled with Jack. In this new Jack dummy repository, now that we have the same generators and tricked out tools, I'm going to show you how it makes you more efficient. We're going to generate resources for companies, for roles, for users, and for the join table which joins users to roles. In the episode after that, we'll then implement Jack and show you what it is, why it's cool, and how you can use it. I've been developing this dynamic permissions engine for the last 6 years, and I'm about ready to open source it. It'll be under the MIT license, which means you'll be able to do whatever you want with it. I hope you'll enjoy it, and I hope you stick with the series. Thanks for watching.